salute tonight, please.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ryan. Tammy, will you take us through roll call, please?
Yes, I will. Those present are Mayor Shaw, Council Members Baker, Roth, Armbruster, Kemp, and McVeigh. Staff present is myself, Tammy Justice, City Attorney, Adam Lyons, a City Engineer, Jim Gibson, City Planner, Lieutenant Brady, and Lieutenant MacGyver. And no absences tonight. We're all here.
Thank you, Tammy. Council, I'll look for approval of agenda, please. Wow, we're all fired up tonight. A motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passed 5-0. Thank you, Council. I'll now look for approval of consent agenda, please.
Move to approve the consent agenda to include January 28th, 2025, current doctor 8416, 8428, and two EFTs in the amount of $26,333.95. February 11th, 2025, current doctor 8436 to 8449, and two EFTs in the amount of $55,509.99. January 14, 2025 meeting and January 2025 payroll in the amount of $42,349.58, which has been audited and verified by the auditor. Second.
There's a motion, a second to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed 5-0. Thank you very much, Council. Now go to public comment. And I don't think anybody's on for public comment, so we'll move on to presentation by Mark Daly with TRPC.
All right. Well, thank you. I really appreciate you making the time on the agenda. Usually when I come down, I'm talking about some specific project that we have going on. This one is going to be a little more general. One of the things our council asked was for me to get out to our councils more frequently and just kind of let folks know some of the things that we have going on. And there is a lot that we've got going on right now that it is going to be of particular interest to South County. And so those are kind of the things that I'll focus on. And I'll also just say, anytime, I'll be going over things at a high level. Anytime you want more detail or any more information, please just let me know. I am always happy to come down and talk about the work that we're doing and how we can better serve the community of Rainier. So I've handed this out mainly just because there's some graphics that'll be better to look at. But just because I haven't been down here for a little while, who we are, folks often think that we're part of Thurston County. We're not. We're an independent organization. We've been around for over 55 years. Includes all the cities, 2 tribes, the county, all the special purpose districts in our area, geared towards planning across jurisdictional boundaries, things like transportation, land use, environmental planning. So one of the big things that we do is programming federal funds. There are federal funds that come to this region through Thurston Regional Planning Council. And we just finished up a call for projects in December where we programmed out almost $20 million in federal dollars to work locally. That also includes, that funding is what makes the Rural Community Support Program possible. That's where, through our process, we award the county a set amount so that they can then turn around and make local dollars available to the communities of Rainier, Tenino, Bucota, and the 2 tribal partners. And so this year for the Rural Community Support Program, Rainier is getting some thermoplastic striping done with that, and those funds will be available not until about 2027, but because the county does their work first and they get the federal money for it, and then they turn around and make that local funding available for the program, for the projects in Rainier, Tenino, Dakota, and Nisqually is the one that has a project this year. So that's a big part of that, planning the federal dollars. And then, like I said, we work on planning around land use, transportation, and all kinds of statistics. We're big on data. Anything you ever want to know about Thurston County or the cities within. If you haven't looked at our one pager for each community, we've got one for Rainier, and it's a nice little snapshot that we update. We keep those updated annually as things change. Just really good information on each of our communities. Each year our council comes up with legislative priorities. And I wanted to highlight this because we've been working on this for a few years now, and it's starting to get some momentum. Sometimes you gotta take these things to the legislature 4 and 5 times before you start really getting any traction. And what that is we've been talking about the need to invest in our rural main streets. At TRPC, some of you will remember that back in 2016, we worked on a project called Main Street 507, where we were looking at Rainier, Tenino in particular, and what kinds of things could we do on Highway 507 to make it function better for the communities of Rainier and Tenino, because it's a state highway serving as the main street through these two communities. And so that work was done, but getting it implemented has been really challenging. It's hard for smaller communities to access the dollars that are needed for a big project like a roundabout on Highway 507. So this is the 4th slide in your packet. We took a packet of different projects in our rural communities, and it adds up to almost 35 million. And this is just with taking some of the highest priority from each of these communities. And so we've been talking about that need with legislators. It's starting to get more traction because with safety becoming more and more of a focus for the state, some of the roadways that would benefit the most are roadways like 507 that have some higher speeds, and controlling those speeds as you come into cities like Rainier can be a challenge. And things like the roundabout that's been sitting out there for almost a decade now, the idea at Center Street, would have big impacts, big improvements on safety through this area and access. So we're trying to make the case to get investments. It's going to be tough this session. The transportation budget's down $1 billion, but we feel like we need to keep talking about these things because eventually we need to take care of some of these needs. So we'll keep working that. Wanted to talk a little bit about rural transit. So rural transit is also something that is operated through TRPC. As folks may know, we've been doing this for almost 25 years now. Back in 2000, when there was the first effort to reduce car tax to $30, that was a big hit on transit. And at that time, intercity transit pulled in their boundary to just include the Olympia, Tumwater, Lacey, and Yelm areas. And that's when we started rural transit, which is funded through a state grant program. We've been lucky enough for 25 years to keep the funding that's needed to run that, but it's getting more and more challenging each time we need to go for those funds to get them. So we've been talking with a lot of others about, hey, we see a problem on the horizon, about making sure that rural transit is sustainable. It is at this point, but we just want to make sure that folks are aware that we're running that on a competitive grant program, and there's some challenges to that, especially long-term for keeping that service. More people we have riding it, the bigger hit it's gonna be if something happens to that funding. And every 2 years, we're competing for that funding, state funding. Wanted to talk a little bit about the emergency detour route strategy that we're working on. And Councilmember Kemp, you saw this at our last meeting, that some of the early, we're about halfway through that project. And what we're doing is, it's mainly looking at I-5 and when there are incidents on I-5 at different areas, there have been over 50 detour routes in Thurston County identified. And using our transportation model, we're taking a look at, when you have a closure here and you start using the detour routes, what does traffic look like? What does that do? And if you look at page 7, well, actually, I guess first looking at page 6, the scenario that has the biggest impact for Rainier is scenario 1. When we've got a closure that's like the train derailment at Mounts Road, that's when 507 has the biggest impacts. Now, when you're looking at the next page, page 7, those big red dots, those are roadways that end up basically being when we have an incident. No, not surprising. We all saw it with the train derailment. Everyone starts trying to use 507. Young gets bogged down. That then has impacts on Rainier and to a lesser extent Tenino. And so what we're doing now is looking at what kinds of things could we do to that roadway to help improve the way it functions when it's being used as a detour route. And when you look at slide 8, this is a good story for why it is important to do things like the roundabout at center, because what basically this is showing current condition. This is for a roundabout that's proposed just outside of Yelm on Vale Road, and this first one is what it is today, and then what it would be when it's a roundabout. And I just want to draw your attention to the middle box. There's a 310 in the left-hand side and a 14 in the other. And if you look at that, that is the delay in seconds. And so while 310 seconds may not sound like a huge delay, it's a big difference from 14 seconds that you experience with the roundabout. Has huge impacts on the ability to move vehicles through an intersection. And so that's the kind, and it slows down vehicles for that safety aspect. Speaking of safety, another thing that we received federal funding to do a regional safety action plan, and we're just about to get started on that. And basically what we're doing is we're looking at the data for accidents throughout our county and where are the areas that we should be focusing safety improvements and what are the kinds of things that we can do to make those roadways safer. So this is something that will be underway in earnest later on in 2025, and there'll be a lot of work during 2026. So you'll be hearing a lot more about this over the next year. And then another piece just to be aware of is there was a change in the Growth Management Act that emphasized a role of organizations like ours. We are the state designated Regional Transportation Planning Organization, RTPO, for area. And they've enacted in the GMA is that as each local jurisdiction is going through their comp plan, the RTPO in the area needs to certify that the transportation element of that comp plan is consistent with the regional transportation plan. And so we have worked with all the jurisdictions to come up with a kind of 14-point checklist for how we will check for consistency of transportation elements, local transportation elements with the regional transportation plan. And we've already tested it. Olympia already has a draft of their transportation element, and the checklist worked pretty well. So we don't expect this to be a big hurdle for any of the local jurisdictions, but just an important thing to remember that we, as you are getting that transportation element done, we will help to make sure that we get that through and we do that, apply that checklist and get it certified consistent so that that won't hang you up as you go to get your comp plan completed. And lastly, just a couple of other pieces to be aware of. We're in an update of that regional transportation plan right now. We update it every 5 years, and it's scheduled for adoption in July, so we'll have a draft of that coming out in April. And that's the document then that we'll be looking at for that consistency review of comp plans. And then another big one is both our council and our policy board have talked a lot about funding for maintaining trails and for kind of coming up with a shared strategy for how long-term how we're going to maintain and expand the regional trail system. And so we received some funding to do that work during that last call for projects. The funding doesn't start until 2028, so we're looking for some other resources to start that sooner. But at very least, we'll get that going around 2028. So I know I threw a lot at you. Like I said, this was just meant to be an overview of some of the things that we're working on that'll be of interest to Rainier. You ever want more detail, just give me a holler.
Thank you, Mark.
Yeah.
I do have one question. It's been a couple years now when we did the parking lot down here, but we're working, you guys were gonna check about getting a bus stop shelter.
Yes.
Yeah, is that still on the hopes?
Well, so what we found is we found some structures, but it was gonna be a challenge to get them delivered and in one piece. And so we were looking for some surplus from some DOT shelters, and it fell through in the end, and we haven't had another opportunity that we've seen. So is that something that Rainier is still hoping to get a roof on that bus stop?
Well, when we have the miserable weather,
Yeah.
And you drive around and you see the shelters at other bus stops,
I certainly think I'm glad you brought that up, because that is the kind of thing. We just moved the bus stop into Nino to some due to some issues, and they too had some desire to look into a shelter. And so if we can start hearing some critical mass around that, we could start looking into, all right, are there possibilities out there?
Okay.
The biggest question I think would be just who and how do we get them installed? What would be ideal is if Rainier staff would be able to do whatever is needed for the actual installation, kind of like what we did for the bus stop signage. But if not, then we might need to bring the county into the discussion. So, but those logistics we can figure out.
I would think that we would be receptive to that.
Okay.
If you find something,
Yeah.
Definitely reach out to me or Tammy can get a hold of me and we can discuss it
Good.
further. But it's just something that came across seeing you that, hey, where are we at on that?
Yeah.
So,
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Thank you.
well, thank you. Council, you got any questions for?
Yeah, I comment on the shelter. I'm a big proponent of that. Maybe we could look into what a new shelter costs, and then look for grants. We might be able to get the Nisqually tribe to throw some money toward that, since they're a big supporter of the rural transit.
That's not a bad idea at all.
And,
Well, I know we can get an estimate, so that's on my to-do list now.
Any other questions or comments for Mark? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you for having something for us to look at. Okay, we will now go to staff reports. Lieutenant Brady or Lieutenant MacGyver, which one is going to speak tonight?
Good evening. Brady with the Sheriff's Office. The numbers for the month of January looked really good. I was happy to see our folks out doing traffic stops, which are good and increased. Sheriff's Office wise, still working on hiring. It's a long-term process, so I think we have 9 in the academy right now. So from application time to ready to work the roads, almost a year is about what it takes for folks. And then we still continue to have folks leave at times, retirements and stuff. So, but wanted to introduce Lieutenant Malcolm MacGyver, currently an acting lieutenant. He'll be promoted in May, I believe, May 1st. And he will be the new city representative for the city of Rainier for the Sheriff's Office. And kind of a funny full circle story. So Malcolm, when I used to be an Edward deputy out here and worked the Edward area, Malcolm actually worked for the city of Rainier back in the day when you guys had a police department.
Oh.
So, was that 20 years ago?
Yeah, 2001.
Yep, 24 years ago. So, yeah, so full circle, here he is back and doing that. So Malcolm, we'll get point of contacts for you. Absolutely, I've already kind of explained the process a little bit and stuff to him. So he'll be your primary point of contact, and then Lieutenant Chatterton will get him out at future meetings. He'll be the other swing shift lieutenant, so they may trade off coming to the actual meetings, but for all things to bother, it'll be Malcolm. I mean, not bother. So I'd be happy to answer.
Take what you got.
Thank you. Thank you. Matt, you got anything?
Yes, sir. So, I tried to run some numbers last month, but our system was down. So, just some kind of gee whiz numbers. Last year in the city limits of Rainier, there were 246 calls. Surprisingly, the year before there were 247. So, not a big difference there. Population's pretty stable. Calls pretty stable. In station 24, so the engine that's here in town, and its entire response area went to about 1,280 calls, and then that was just in the surrounding area of Rainier, and then the engine itself around 1,587 calls total. I kind of have a bunch of calls, different types of calls broken down, but basically averages out to about 20 calls a month inside the city limits of Rainier. So far as January, we've had 26, so it's probably just an anomaly, but that's all I got for call volume. It's been pretty stable here. Nothing crazy, a few small fires. And that's about it for that. Just been doing fire inspections, getting some places fixed up that were, found one kitchen and was doing some cooking. The system was actually non-functional, but didn't know it until I did the fire inspection and started looking at it. So, that's gotten all fixed, and so now they can keep deep frying your burritos and everything else when you stop at a gas station around here. So, but at least the kitchen staff will be safer now. If there's a fire, the suppression system will actually work like it's supposed to, versus just sit there and laugh at you. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Any questions for Matt? Adam?
I don't have anything new except just an update on the water system plan. We're still waiting to test those 2 other hydrants. Darren said the SCADA system will not be fixing out until March.
Okay.
Just keeps getting delayed.
Okay.
But we need that data to run the model in the plan in chapter 3. So, but after we have that,
We haven't been working you hard enough.
I don't know.
You're working. We just aren't working yet, so.
I don't know. Ron was very afraid that it would overload the booster station, and then a water main would bust, and now Theron, he's a little easier about it, but he still says, oh, well, there's a chance, and so they don't wanna take the risk.
No, I appreciate that. Any questions for Adam? Jim, I know you're hiding back there behind Mark, but your sign's over here, so that's why I went Adam first. So I know you have some stuff to share with the council.
Sure. So Jim Gibson, the planner. So I got about 8 projects here I want to give updates on. There's been seems like there's a lot of conversation in town amongst constituents about certain projects. I know some of you have been approached on them, so I'll go through them real quickly so you guys have a overall idea of what's going on in town. First one I have, the first 2 I'd like to talk about are Trotter Downs and Lucas Myers. Both, there's 3 lot short plats proposed in both of those locations. Lucas Meyer, 3 years ago or so, he was proposed a 3 lot down off 133rd. That's coming to fruition again. And then Trotter Downs, as you go up the hill and turn right as you go up the hill, there's a large lot right there with a house on top. We're looking at subdividing that into 3 lots. So both are working through the sewer issues or process through the county, getting septics preliminary approved before we take those applications in, but it looks like they are moving forward. Jason's Greenhouse, lots of people have been talking about, excited about Jason's coming here. We had a meeting with him, LG, our building official, myself, and Tammy met with Jason maybe 4 to 6 weeks ago now. And he wanted to talk about some of his concerns with building out here. So we sat down and talked with him. One of them was made mostly about service to the property. He's required to have a fire sprinkler system in it. The building is large enough to have a fire sprinkler system. His configuration requires one. He was looking for the city to try to find him a way around the sprinkler system. LG was pretty clear, so was I. Bring a proposal to us that meets the code, and we can review it, take a look at it, meet the fire department, and have those conversations. We don't come up with the answers. We ask for them, their designers, to give them to us, and then we can help them through the process. That was the last time we officially met with them. So they went back and they're trying to work through those ideas. The landscape business is allowed there. It's an allowed use. It's zoned correctly. So it can happen. He just needs to meet the code. That's where it's at right now. So if you hear something else other than that out there, it's just not the fact. There's a lot of stuff out there at this point that's being talked about. But the city we're here to help them. They just need to come up with a proposal that works with code. So, Wayne's Propane, they have an application in for a conditional use permit. You've seen it half done out there. That's kind of where we got them stopped, and they've applied for the correct permits. And you'll see notice going out shortly for the project and the proposal. There'll be a staff report. It needs to go to planning commission, then it'll come to council. So you'll have a chance to see that when it comes through. I don't want to let the cat out of the bag, and you guys will get it when you get it, and you can act on it at that point. Sale Street, that was a project you guys approved, probably 18 months ago now. Seattle Street had a 6 lot short plat for homes out there. They broke ground on it over the last 2 weeks. They're starting to build it out. So there'll be 6 new lots out there. So if you hear about it, it's in progress. Public Works is aware of it, I'm aware of it, and we're watching the progress as they go. U-Haul. So on the corner across the street here, we've had some U-Haul trucks show up on the empty lot out there. I did send them a letter on Friday morning. They received it. It's not an outright allowed use. We've asked them to come in and talk to us. They could do a conditional use permit to allow them to happen there, but there needs to be some improvements that go with it. So they're now aware of it. They just thought the empty lot was theirs to use. And it's what it is, it's a sign company who's added an accessory use to their business. And that's, if you will, the ownership of it. So we're working through that now. The last project is Six Pennies Brewery. So you guys have heard a lot of conversations off and on about that. I believe they bought the property, which I always refer to as the garage property, just the other side of the mini storages down there. They've taken down the trailer and they've started cleaning it up, but they've submitted for a pre-submission conference just last week. So they need to get me a site plan so we can do the pre-submission conference and tell them what the requirement is going to be before they even make application. Biggest one out there is septic, because without a sewer system in town, breweries have a lot of, sewer's much heavier than, what you typically have in residential. So they have to get through that process before we'll take application in. So, and the last one was comp plan amendment. You mentioned earlier, TRPC mentioned about the comp plan amendment and being aligned with their roadway plans. A planning commission will hear from hear part of our comp plan amendment next Tuesday. Substance also is going to come in and present what they've gotten done so far. We are working through that. I have not seen the product yet. It's in process, but you'll start hearing more about that soon. That's an overall comp plan update. I know G&O has been working on some of the water systems, and sewer's not ours, the transportation, and some of the other things going on. So it'll all come together soon. And I think that's it. Any questions on those?
Dennis?
Question about the Lubismeyer development.
Mm-hmm.
When that first started some time ago, because of the requested road change, they were to deed an easement to the city. And to my knowledge, that has not yet happened.
That is correct. They own it. They have the easement. They will deed it when we subdivide it. But they have the property now.
And, okay, and they still intend to live up to that?
Essentially, you guys went through the preliminary plat process. You came up with conditions, and that's where it sort of, for lack of a better word, it died. Lubismeyer got busy with other stuff. Things were going on. Now he's come back and wants to revive this. And it'll be a whole new process, but I see it being very similar to what was asked for before.
Okay, thank you.
And that's gonna be, you said off of 133rd, but that access and easement's coming off of Crimson Court, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Huh?
So, do
Maureen?
they have to move the U-Hauls until they get everything done to actually use that, or do they get to park there and stay there?
I guess that becomes a code enforcement situation. We haven't broached that one yet.
Oh, okay.
That would be the ideal. But code enforcement takes weeks to start. You gotta deliver a letter, give them notice. It's gonna take some time to make that happen. We haven't got to that point yet, but probably should happen.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Jim. Dennis?
I attended TRPC. We received several presentations. One that caught my attention and should be of interest to all of us is the proposal to do away with the state gas tax and replace it with a road usage charge. And currently, the idea is 2.6 cents per mile traveled. But they're trying to figure out how to do that because the tax is still gonna be on the pump when you go get gas to take care of people who are registered out of state. And how do they get it back to people who are registered? And how do they deduct the miles they travel out of Washington state from it? So it's a complicated process, but it's in the works. It's being considered and the legislature is gonna look at it this year. So it's gonna be interesting,
Yeah.
but it could be fairly expensive. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Dennis? Thank you, Dennis. Ron?
Just TRPC tomorrow morning for the Transportation Policy Board, 8:30 this year.
Make sure that Mark's there.
He's always been there at 7 o'clock, and it's 8:30, so I think just 8:30 is gonna sleep in.
Thanks, Ron. Any questions for Ron? Tom?
Just on the emergency preparedness, Matt and I did inspections of some of the emergency sheltering spaces. Found some stuff that was not quite right, but, we got the list, and I know I've been checking back with them, and we pretty much got everything back in order. But other than that, it wasn't anything really, really crucial. Most of it was pretty good. So we got that going on, and the radio checks have been going along really well. And that's about all I've got right now. Except for the fact that I was right, I've been approached about the Basins project by a few people, and I didn't have any answers for them, and so, but now I understand a little bit more about, and I got a phone call, I never answered it, it was from Jason, so, I wanted just to know if I get back to him, if I should just tell him to talk directly to LG and get these things, because he asked, he said, why can't city council do anything about it? And I said, because, and I talked to Tammy just to reassure, but I told him that, you know, unless it's brought to us, we can't. Because they're looking to get away from the cost of the fire extinguisher or fire systems.
If you want to be part, if you want me to be part of that conversation with you to talk to him, I can. But that was the specific thing we did talk right here about. It was all fire systems. And LG is open to hear his proposal. It just, we can't just do away with it because we want them to come.
Right.
If we did so, we would be, city council, if you chose to do away with it, you would be the one taking liability if something was to happen there.
Right.
So we need their engineers to provide us something that says this meets the code. That's something we can hang our hat on and we can consider.
Okay. I just wanted to make
Yeah,
sure.
appreciate it.
Okay. That's all I got.
Thank you, Tom. Any questions for Tom?
Yes. How many shelter sites does the city have, and where are they?
We have 3. We have Valley Heart in the food bank, and we have the senior center, and we have the church down here. And it's very small. It would basically be for, like their congregation and stuff. But the senior center will focus on seniors and where they can in Valley Heart with the food bank, being able to feed people, stuff like that. So that's the 3 that we've had for the last few years. That I'm hoping to be able to, the high school also was involved with it too also. So, we're growing, and hopefully we'll have some other more inputs. Basically towards this coming spring, summer, we'll probably do a notification to everybody and have a meeting here of people who might be interested in being involved with the city for emergency situations. So,
Hopefully we don't ever have to utilize it.
yeah, absolutely.
Thank you. Ryan? Any questions for Ryan? Thank you. Maureen? Any questions for Maureen? Thank you. Bill?
No, I've done enough.
You said it. Okay. We'll move on. Any questions for Bill?
What have you done?
Huh?
What have you done?
Went for a walk.
Surgery.
I went for a walk, get a cup of coffee, that's what I did.
That'll teach you.
Thank God he didn't trip on our sidewalks
No
and
kidding.
sue us. That'd be conflict of interest, suing our own city. Okay, any questions for Bill? Mine mainly ties in with Public Works and Theron. He put a real detailed report. Couldn't be more pleased with what those three are getting done. They spent an overtime weekend because we had a water leak over on Alaska, right? Get my streets right. You know, and it was all about our community and not wanting to have the road closed during bus time. And he took the high road and got a hold of Tony and Doug and got plates to cover the road when they had to open it up. And, you know, we waited until the weekend to work on it, and they pretty much did 2 days on the weekend working. And that's the water leak that he's talking about, the first major thing he had to get done in the first 2 weeks, and they get overtime. But, you know, they handled that very well. He kept me in the loop, texting me at the end of Saturday and end of Sunday and letting me know where we are, and the buses will be able to get the kids to school on Monday. And, you know, he's very, very well on communicating with everything he's doing. Update on the new vehicle that we had approved to budget. He's been working his rear end. You know, one of our council meetings, we suggested he get some more prices. He's gone to 3 or 4 dealers. He didn't like working with one dealer. He didn't feel comfortable. I told him he can do what he wants to do, just keep me in the loop. So he went to another dealership, still thinking that he wasn't getting fair. What we finally found is a dealership that has a 23 with 31 miles on it. It's got more things than the 25 does. It already has running boards on, and it's just under $10,000 cheaper than the 25. And he wanted to make sure I was sign off on that. I signed off on it today, and he is going to make the purchase. But we're going to have a 23 vehicle rather than a 25, but we're saving ourselves 10 grand, and it has 31 miles on it, and I've looked at it. He showed it to me and all the specs, and we're not having to pay the running boards on it. So he really thinks it's a better vehicle from the 23 model than the 25 model. So hopefully we'll get that. He was ordering that today as soon as I gave him the okay to do it. So we're looking forward to getting that delivered. You want to add anything on that from what you knew about the vehicle?
Just that it's an XLT instead of an XL, so it's actually a better model.
That's where the model got XLT rather than the XL. Was the more things on it. You see, if you've driven up by the Public Works, you've seen we've cleared up the hill a little bit, and the animals are taken down. They're going to go back in there, but you know, we cleaned up the city hall for our workers down here, and my plan this spring is to get Public Works cleaned up. So they're going to clean up the front. Has anybody driven by? Have you noticed it?
Oh, yeah.
They've leveled that out. We've taken the garbage can out of there because we were having issues with people using the garbage can, so it's behind the gate now. We've leveled all that. We're going to bring a little topsoil in. We're going to sprinkle with grass seed in the spring. We're not putting a sprinkler system in, but they can keep it watered because we got water right up there when they come to work every day. If you notice that Paul cleaned up the whole hillside, trimmed up those trees. I mean, it's really noticeable as you come into town. We're going to get a new sign, very similar to the sign that went at the sport court. We're going to put one of those up there for Rainier Public Works, and those animals will come back out there, and we're kind of letting the 3 Public Works people have what they would like, run it by me, just like Tammy got her wish down here. So that's a project that I want them to try to get finished up here first thing in spring before they really get into the mowing season. So that's work in progress. Any questions for me on any of that?
You didn't mention our new side-by-side.
Oh, the new side-by-side is there. I went and drove it around the water tower up there, and it's nice. It's got a dump trailer on it, and Theron has assured me that our next reader meet, you will see both side-by-sides being used for the reader reading the meter reads, and we're going to see it this summer, spraying weeds, and it's great. It's nice.
Yeah, it's a nice vehicle.
It is. That's all I have. Tammy, that's questions. Tammy.
On the sign that's going up Public Works, just so you guys are aware, it's going to be the same metal sign, but we're not doing the same pillars. We thought that was a little fancy for the Public Works, so it's going to be more like the Welcome to Rainier signs with the metal poles. We thought it would look more appropriate for there, so nobody gets scared about the cost of the new sign at Public Works.
The sports complex is really nice.
It looks awesome. Yeah, it does.
And that was Theron that did not. We talked about those pillars, and he wants to do something more fits in with Public Works. And if you look at the sign pretty much is the same amount of letters for Rainier Sports Court, Rainier Public Works. They're going to take the trees out that you see on this one, and we're going to hopefully have like a backhoe or a front end loader or something. That's what's going to probably replace the trees is our vision. Otherwise, everything will probably be very similar. Colors may change. Keep going.
Okay. So, did you want to talk about the bathroom?
No, you've been dealing with that.
Okay.
And everybody asked you the questions, so you get that one.
Okay, so the bathroom has been signed off by the county finally as of yesterday. The contractor had a punch list that was a struggle to get complete, but it's complete, and the county signed off on it, and they issued us a letter of completion. So it is now our bathroom to take care of and maintain. However, Theron needs to program the automatic locks, and Theron is to lay up for the rest of the week for his WDM2
Model
training. Yes. So when Theron gets back Friday, he needs about 1 hour to program it, and the bathrooms will be open. They will be open from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., 7 days a week, until summer. We'll reevaluate. The 3 kids that vandalized them, all 3 of their parents have now reached out to me. They have had a court date, and basically they are getting community service. So one of them will be cleaning the bathroom on the weekends. The other 2 are kind of doing stuff around town with their parents' supervision, not city staff supervision. So that is the update on the bathroom. As far as what I'm doing, I started working on the annual report, and then of course the state auditor's office took their page down for maintenance, and so I hadn't got back to that yet. But I'm leaving next week for Mexico, and so I decided that when I got back from Mexico would be a great time to start that again. So other than that, I'm getting a new desk in my office. It broke, and we decided instead of fixing it, we're going to replace it. So you may see some shuffling going on with my office furniture. I have not forgot about council chambers. I've just been busy with everything else. So this is still very much on my radar for this year. And that's all I have.
Any questions for Tammy? Thank you, Tammy. Okay. New business. Outside agency grant application review. Is that yours?
That's yours.
It's not.
Well, we have 2. I sent them to you last night. Hopefully you had a chance to review them. This is the donation that we give to our nonprofits in town. Yeah. This year, we had the Senior Center and We Love Rainier both apply, as opposed to the last year or 2, we only had We Love Rainier. So we had put $5,000 in our budget for this purpose. I believe each of these groups asked for $3,000, so obviously we can't do that. So I guess.
Did everybody get a chance to look at those applications? I didn't know that's what the wording was for. That was my fault. Everybody, Maureen, did you look through them?
Yeah.
Ryan?
Yeah, I looked at it, so we love it here, but not the
Tom, you seen them?
Yeah.
Ron?
Just looked at them.
Just looked at 'em. Dennis, you seen them both?
Yeah, I went through them and, I'm not real happy with the one from the senior center, it's pretty vague. So I think it's a simple answer, is 3,000 goes to We Love Rainier and 2,000 goes to the senior center. If we give them any, I'd really like to say that their application's really pretty vague.
Okay. Maureen, you got any comments?
I would just be happy with 2,000 for each of them. I just feel like, I don't know, it seems like We Love Rainier just keeps asking for more and more, so I would be happy with 2,000 for both of them.
Ryan?
I'm on the fence with the We Live Rainier. I think it's, we manage the future, right?
What's that?
So you need to manage for the future, right? So if their goal is the younger generation and all the park events, the holiday stuff, is that where all the money goes to, or the vendors that come in for like the snow cones and food and stuff? Do they pay and help pitch in for their portion of that too, or where does that money actually go?
Our money, my understanding, just it goes into their. If they're asking us for a grant, we're cutting them a check, and what they do with it, we're just, that's something as a council that we decided that we put some money in our budget for nonprofits.
Yeah.
So,
Right, that's all I was asking, like, 'cause I just asked.
what they use the money on, they talked about a little bit about the projects they do, but.
Yeah, it was all the stuff in the park. But
Yeah.
that's what I was asking, is, does it pay for that, or that's what I was wondering, cause I thought the vendors would pay for their spots at the park. Like
What they,
park would pay
I don't
for
have
that?
an answer to what
Okay.
they charge their vendors and what they do on that, so.
That was all my things.
Tom?
Double dip.
Yeah.
Some of the money goes to support that, but for things like the Easter egg hunt, there are really no vendors.
Right, so it's all
And
that.
so there's no, anything coming in, and this last year, they had over 2,000 people show up for the Easter egg hunt, so it's a big thing.
Yeah.
Not just for the city of Rainier, but for
The surrounding
our
areas,
surrounding area.
100%.
So, yeah, but they do use money from their vendors to support their events, for the ones that actually have vendors.
Yeah, that's why I was curious on how it all was structured.
If you remember right, Ryan, this all came into, they used to come to us and to you as a council and want to waive fees.
Yeah.
And finally, the council just said, we don't need to be waiving fees and going through that when we have other people using the park, more people using the park now. So you as a council decided that we're just gonna put some money in the budget, and every year they can apply, just like they are, and you guys can allocate what you want to the nonprofit, and that eliminated them coming and wanting us to waive fees. So, Tom, what's your 2 cents?
I really think, that the senior center should get the 3,000 and, that We Love Rainier get the 2,000. Because basically, the We Love Rainier can basically have events to raise money to help them. The senior center can't. And basically, they just went through, they had to replace all of their lights, bring all their electrical up to date, and replace their ceilings. So that was $3,000 or $4,000. And the senior center doesn't make money. They charge a fee, but they use that fee basically for food and stuff like that. Even though there was donated food, there's still stuff that they have to purchase, they have to pay their electricity bill, and they're open for We Love Rainier, that's where they
That's a
do
senior
the
center.
meetings and that type of stuff. So, I love We
Next
Love
page.
Rainier. And
It's just the
I
requirements. Next
honestly
page.
think the senior center could use that money, more for the
That's
benefit
We
of
Love
the
Rainier.
community. So, I would prefer to see, $83,000 for the senior center.
Okay, thank you. Ron?
I'm kind of split that I think we should split 25-25 for $100 each. I think that both of them are good for the city. They both do a lot for the city. I realize with the senior center, price of groceries has gone up a lot and food items and stuff, so, you know, I think that could be a consideration, but I just think we treat them equally.
Okay. Dennis?
I like Marie's proposal, and we would then spend $4,000 and keep $1,000 in the budget, because there may be another nonprofit or some agency come along that wishes to do something for or in the city, and we would have some money to cover that.
Just one question, is there a time limit on when they can apply for this money? I thought we had like February they had to apply.
Yeah, January 31st.
After, January, February, after
Yeah.
that, we can't apply anyway.
Yeah, it's done for this year.
It's done for this year, as in putting an application in. You know, I guess I'll address, just so there's no misunderstanding, is last year we budgeted $5,000. We did not use the entire $5,000.
Right.
So you don't have to use it all, but I don't want you to think you have to, because last year you as a council did not. Okay, I'm gonna go around the table one more time and let each of you give your plead, and then I'm gonna ask for somebody to be the first one to make a motion. So, Dennis, was that your second feedback, is that you like Maureen's idea?
I do.
Because I can see that we're gonna have somebody waver a little bit, so. Maureen, you want last words on your end?
Trying not to come at this from the HR person. I get what Dennis is saying, that their application was very vague for the senior center. Tom did a plea for the senior center of things that needed to be done. I feel like that could have been put in the application, because, we didn't know that. I mean, had you not said that, all we had to go off was this application. So I'm at a loss for, do they get dinged because their application was not very thorough, enough information for us to make a decision? I guess that's why I'm still going on, give them $2,000, give these guys $2,000. I mean, I don't want it to look like we're not being fair because of how the applications were. So that's why I don't feel like giving them 3,000 versus them 2,000. I just say we do 2,000.
Ryan?
Doesn't matter. It's real life. I mean, you mess up on an application, you get it sent back or you get denied. It doesn't really matter. But I mean, spirit of Rainier, then yeah, half and half. But I mean, that's not how life works.
Okay. Tom?
Wait, so what are you proposing?
I think the whole thing, the dates are wrong on this application thing. It's weird. You the same contact person for the senior home, or the same people on the board of We Love Rainier. It's all weird. But we'll just split. It's already done. I mean, how come this is dated 12/8 of 2024 for an application for 2025 that was supposed to be turned at the beginning of this year?
Well, they probably worked on it early. They did submit it early. The senior center did.
Good point.
That's what I'm saying, but you don't
I know,
even have
it's-
the detail for it. You don't know.
It's
what
not
you're
like it's
applying
due the
for.
1st of January, it's due, yeah, okay.
But
In the year of 25.
and you didn't even fill it out properly. You submit it a month early, and then don't even fill it out properly or have the detail on what you actually need the money for.
Okay.
I mean, I've built performas, and I've had to ask for money before, and I would get shot down with that.
Okay, Tom?
I'm just, I'm a little on the jealousy side with the senior center because they've been so much help with the community. And so is We Love Rainier. But I honestly believe that they are in dire need more of a little more funding than We Love Rainier for right now, this year. the rent. And so I would have to go for the senior center to get $3,000 and we love Rainier $2,000.
Okay. Ron?
So we need to make the motion, right?
I said I'd give you each one more time to do your spiel, because I know that every one of you have an opinion.
Well, my opinion, pretty much is 50-50 between them, so therefore I move that we give $2,000 to each one of them for their application. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, there is a second. So there's a motion and a second to give Senior Center and We Love Rainier each $2,000 for their projects for the year of 2025. Any further discussion?
Why don't we give them $2,500 each?
That wasn't the motion.
I don't know.
Any further discussion?
I agree with Ron, but I still would like to see the other $1,000 available in case somebody does come along with a good idea to do something positive for the community.
Well, that is something that is not part of this discussion right now, Dennis.
True.
So that would be a further discussion, but that has nothing to do with what's on the table right
Well,
now.
that's what the motion was, to leave $1,000 on the table, right?
Yep. And we can always discuss the 1,000 later if it comes up.
Any more discussion?
If you would like my 2 cents, which I know you do.
I don't get a choice.
I think both organizations target a very important people in our community. So I love the idea of splitting it in the middle. I don't think one is better than another. Senior Center's behalf, they did submit it early. I don't think they should be dinged for that. If I was filling that application out on December 15th, I would have put December 15th for my date. So I don't think that's an issue. Also, they're volunteers. They're not grant writers. They struggled with the application. I basically said just, it's not a formal grant. It's a request for a donation. And so I don't feel like they should be dinged for that either because they're old. They're seniors. Hey, I'm close. I'm close too. So all
You
that
need to be quiet now.
all that to say, I was just going to bat for both organizations. I think they both do wonderful things for our community, and we should treat them equal.
And I think that's what, I think they both think that they're equal. So, any further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed 5-0. Thanks, Tom. Okay, that was good discussion, council. I thought you guys, I'm pleased to how you respected each person's decision. And that's what makes this job so well and why there's a lot of people that like to be here, and you council members being council and me being the mayor and all of our staff is because you guys can come to decisions under stress, but not get in a heated battle. And I really respect all that of all 5 of you. Okay. Old business. You want to take this one? Since you've been quiet on now, please take this one.
Okay, I'll take this one. Our defense counsel for our indigent defendants requested some changes to his agreement. That is probably going to cost us a little more money, and that's probably not a bad idea. Our Oak Supreme Court is deciding to decide how much the taxpayers get to pay for indigent defense, and it looks like they're going to jack it way up. So we don't pay the county that much, so if we wind up paying the defense counsel a little bit more, that's probably good. So, and this is more or less just what the market is doing. When I started working for the city of Kennewick back in '78, the judge had a box full of business cards from attorney fees, and you could kind of keep paying $50 for each case they took. and most of them, it amounts to nothing. So paying them $300 now for cases that for the most part aren't gonna amount to anything is no big thing, and the amount, he has to go to trial, considering all the faulty roll that now goes along with that, is not unreasonable, so, I would recommend that you approve the changes, keep us out of trouble with the Supreme Court and everybody else, and it's not unreasonable, so. Any questions?
I move we approve the defense attorney amendment, or amended defense attorney agreement.
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve the defense attorney amended agreement. Any further discussion? No further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passed 5-0. Thank you, council. There's a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Meeting officially adjourned, 6:05 PM. That's the longest meeting we've had.